Hi, I'm Lenny Brooks from ServPro Fort Lauderdale South, out here today at Edward Jones Investments on behalf of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Today we'll be visiting with Jim Senior, Financial Advisor. Let's go in and say hi to James. Jim, thanks for having us in today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Hey, thanks, Lenny. Thanks, Alan, so much for coming in today. Our business here at Edward Jones, we have our own financial advisory practice, and we've been in this location for the last 10 years. And what Edward Jones does is we're a private firm that specializes in planning for individuals, families, and businesses so that they have the ability to identify what their goals are and then put plans in place to make sure they reach those goals. So, for example, if you're an individual, you might be someone who is 30 or 40 years old, they're in those income producing years. We can help people strategize it and give them options so that as they build a plan, they'll be able to think about, okay, hey, maybe I can retire at 60 instead of 65, maybe even 55. Or if they really enjoy what they're doing, they can stay and do it for a little bit longer. So those are just some of the things that we do. We follow a process, and the process has been proven, tried and true through almost 100 years that this firm's been in existence. And I think that here at Jones, the thing that I would say is most important is that we put clients first, and that's because we're a private firm. Even though we have 50,000 employees that work here and we're a Fortune 300 firm, we basically are in a situation where we can literally put our money where our mouth is and make sure that we put clients first, because we're most of all geared towards them as opposed to shareholders or investors in our firm, because we're not publicly traded.
So Jim, you're originally from the Philadelphia area. Can you tell us how you got started in the business and how you ended up here in South Florida?
Yes, when I first graduated from college, and the degrees are behind me, I went to Ohio University, and that's in Athens, Ohio. I graduated, and then I went right away from my MBA to Philadelphia University, which is now Thomas Jefferson University. And during that period of time when I graduated from Ohio, I moved back to Philly, and I started my MBA right away. But I went into a 3-year training program for what is now Wells Fargo Bank. Back then it was called Core States Bank. And Core States was a great bank, a Philadelphia headquartered bank. It was what they call a forced rank program, where you're with a class of people, and they would bring in, like, say, 70 people 3 times a year. So each class over a 3-year period would have around 600, 700 people in it at any given time. Then it would clear out. You would clear after 3 years, and you would go to work in a specific lending area. So I did that for 12 years. I was a corporate institutional lender for 12 years, and then I specialized in my last 6 of my first 18 years in the business. That's a long time. With healthcare investment banking, I specialized. And then back in 2006, I was recruited to go into, instead of lending money, to managing money, gathering assets. And I went to work for Bank of New York Mellon. And then I ended up going back to Wells Fargo after Bank of New York Mellon. Transferred 10 years ago with Wells Fargo Private Bank down here to Florida to be close to my dad. He was a snowbird. He liked to follow the Phillies and the Eagles in spring training out of Clearwater. So we got him a place in Fort Lauderdale, because that's where I knew my partner and I wanted to move. And so we got him down here, and then after about 6 months, he said, hey, move down sooner than you thought. So I changed my plan, a little bit, moved down, and then when I was down here for a little bit of time, the woman who ran Edward Jones in Southeast Florida, she had a baby, and she wanted somebody to come in and help her with her business, somebody with experience. So they wanted me to come over to Edward Jones, and I took a leap of faith and thought, okay, I'll go with a private firm rather than these publicly traded banks that I'd worked for at that point, 25 years. And I've been with Jones for 10 years now, and it's been really the best decision I made, because it's a situation where you don't have the same kind of pressures. Growing up in banking, working in banking was all I knew. And their shareholders come first. You're always trying to move product, make sure that your stock price stays higher. Here as a private partnership, we don't have those same pressures. So I've been down here, and it's been a really wonderful experience just getting used to Southeast Florida. And I will tell you this, one of the things that's really cool about any of us who have moved from one location to another, it's not an easy thing, it's not. And down here, I said the first 2 years were kind of rough, But then you look back and every day is like new. Like you know that you didn't grow up here. It's not like it's my stomping ground, but yet I'm part of it. But I like the newness of it. It's always something that I can be curious about and enjoy. And I know that deep down I'm like, oh, I did this. Actually, I moved from Philadelphia down to Southeast Florida. Who would have thought I would have done something like that? I did it for one reason, but I ended up staying for a whole nother. And I think I love it down here. I think it's a great place to live and work.
Jim, for a little bit over a year now, we've been in this COVID-19 pandemic. How has that impacted your business?
That's a great question, Lenny. Who would have ever thunk that we would be involved in a pandemic, 100 years from the first one? So, amazing times. One of the things that we've noticed is that this exponentially quick, accelerated movement towards technology. Who would have ever, believed that all of a sudden we'd be doing WebEx, and then from WebEx it became Zoom within literally 2 months. So we try to take advantage of the technology and kind of in our own way make lemonade out of lemons. We realize that the need that people have to stick to their plans and also take advantage of the different dynamics. The market dropped 34%. The low point was March 23rd, 2020. That a lot of people wanted to buy at that time. So we had to make sure that we would continue to operate at full steam, but just in a different way. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it wasn't much. I've been through worse, where you are trying to learn this new technology, but sometimes, like when you're baptized by fire, you have no choice. But it's like I've got to talk to people, and I want to make sure I come away. So you do the practicing, you use the Zooms. A lot of people, after they got over the novelty of that, they just went back to regular phone calls. But we've been slowly but surely coming out of this whole process, but doing it safely. We've been using our masks and things like that, and just making sure that we do things according to the CDC guidelines and Edward Jones guidelines. But at the same time, we've tried to move past some of the fear. Making sure that people are safe, those who are vaccinated. We don't have too many people in the office at the same time. But at the end of the day, most people have wanted to do their business virtually for now. And so we've been able to kind of move it along without too much of any blips or hiccups. So I'm grateful for that, and it takes two to tango. So it's one thing for us to want to do it that way, but God bless our clients in the fact that they actually have been open and flexible and rolling with what has been completely uncharted territory. Soon we're going to be coming out of this, and it's going to be like World War II ended, or some kind of other really sad, tragic type of time period. So we're looking forward to that.
When it first started, were you afraid that we were going to have a repeat of 2008? Like, were you ever worried that things were just going to fall apart in the market altogether and make things rough on people, rougher than they have been?
Yes. The answer is yes. And I think that there's a term that they use out there called black swan when it's something unforeseen. Usually it's something economic, like it would be like a bubble or something. They didn't see this coming, like the housing bubble, the financial crisis from 2008. What I didn't anticipate was, when you look at the history of the market's up 2/3 of the time, and then it's down 1/3 of the time. 1/3 of the time are recessions or even a depression, like we had back in the 1929 depression and things like that. Now there's more tools to handle that. But what I didn't expect was something so unforeseen like a pandemic. That was new territory for everybody. And to watch the market go down 34% in a matter of 3 weeks was really tough. So when I think about this time period and seeing how we came back out of it relatively quick, like we did in 2009 to 2010. So the lesson is for people to stay the course, no matter what happens. Stick to your plan. Know that the market is up 2/3 of the time, and during that 2/3 period of time, it's up for a longer amount of time than when it's down for the 3rd period of time. So 66% of the time the market's up, 33% of the time the market's down. During that downtime, you want to make sure you're available so that the clients want to buy when that opportunity really, and then the market starts to go back up. But I just didn't think we were going to go through such a tough period, only 10 years out from what really had been a bad decade. And really this period of time, when we think about it in historical context, it's going to be more like, okay, we had like a bad year, as opposed to 2000 to 2009 when we had kind of a bad decade, and mostly because of war. So the pandemic was global, whereas the war was more focused between the US and what we were trying to achieve in the Middle East. So it was a little bit more of a focus situation. Now with this pandemic, we have more dollars circulating within the economy because of stimulus, and we're not sending those funds overseas. And I think that's a big reason why the market has come back relatively quick. And once we come out of this, I expect, and so does Edward Jones, more good things for the market.
Jim, you've been a member of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce for about 7 years now, and you're also serving as a chairman of the board of directors. Can you tell us how the chamber has impacted your business?
Yes, the Chamber of Commerce, the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, people don't realize, you think that it's just an entity that's here in Fort Lauderdale, but it actually has locations and chapters all across the globe. And how I've come to know that is because the executive director that we've had, who's the founder of it here in Fort Lauderdale, Keith Blackburn, I've gone to several different seminars with him. I've been on some different functions with him. He travels more, which is part of his job, than I do for it. But I've really come to appreciate what the Chamber does. And the focus of the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and especially here in Fort Lauderdale, they find their niche because you always have the regular Chamber of Commerce, which I'm also affiliated with down here. So I can see the differences of what they do. I find that the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce is more focused on doing less better. So we want to be open to everything, but we really do try to find what our niches are and then help those businesses. Starting with our community, then starting, well, what are the industries that are really, actually operating down here successfully? And the Chamber in the past year, I'm proud to say, under Keith's leadership and the other board members, including you, Lenny, is the fact that we figured out ways to continue to help people, giving them resources during this pandemic time so that they were able to survive and maybe even thrive a little bit during a downtime, but really thrive on a trajectory that's going this way when we're done with this and coming out. So dealing with what we currently have to deal with, everybody being kind of tamped down, but being prepared more than anything for when we emerge back out of this. So staying in the trenches and making sure that people are ready to re-emerge from this and then take advantage of the opportunities that are there. But I think that the organization, even myself, until I attended some of the different conferences and went to some of the different events, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, we have European cities that have their own chamber, South American cities and countries that have representation, Asian countries. It just really has been pretty amazing, including African countries. It's great. So the seeds are planted, and we're one of those seeds. We're actually growing more towards a decent sized tree at this point, but we're there to help grow more trees and make it maybe a forest, and then in addition to that, help those communities that are behind us so that we can have them benefit from our lessons, the lessons that we've learned, that we were able to become successful and build this. But I give Keith a lot of credit, our board members, and more than anybody, the members that we have who have trusted us and let us help them.
Jim, on behalf of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, I want to thank you for having us in this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Lenny. We appreciate so much you taking the time to come in and meet us, and that we can tell our story a little bit so that other people out there can get to know us a little bit better and see maybe we can help them in the future.
Once again, I'm Lenny Brooks from ServPro Fort Lauderdale South, out here today at Edward Jones on behalf of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. If you have any questions regarding the Chamber of Commerce, ServPro Fort Lauderdale South, or Edward Jones Investments, please click on the links in the comments below. Thanks and have a good day. This video has been a presentation of the Greater Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber of Commerce, along with ServPro Fort Lauderdale South. ServPro is the nation's largest fire, water, mold, and biohazard cleanup company, and we are South Florida's largest ServPro. For more information on our services, please contact me, Lenny Brooks, at 954-776-2000 or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Lenny ServPro. On behalf of everyone at the Chamber and ServPro, I want to thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel and click the notify button so you'll be alerted when we post new content. Please leave your comments and let us know what you thought about our video. Remember, at ServPro, we're ready for whatever happens.